Meeting is now called to order. Today is Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. It is now 6:33 p.m. Can everyone please stand for Pledge of Allegiance and prayer? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, we pray for your protection, your guidance, and your strength as we do the city's business. We pray that you protect our citizens, that you protect our public safety, and that you protect our community. It's in your blessed name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, we have a quorum. We have Councilor Russell and Councilor Rusamoroff joining us via Zoom, and I believe Councilor Giles might be on the line as well. So we do have a quorum. Next on the agenda is comments of council members and special recognition or resolutions.
Madam President, I have.
Go right ahead, Councilor Freeman.
Okay. The first one is I requested a street light for the 5400 block of Prepara Drive. One of my constituents said that she had no street lights on her street, and I referred the message over to Department of Public Works and the mayor's office, and I'm just waiting for a follow-up. And the other one, can we have the administration and the Lawrence Common Council?
Excuse me. Whoever has the phone number ending in 1923, you need to put your phone on mute, please. Thank you, Councilor Freeman.
Okay. Can our administration and Lawrence Common Council lobby the Indiana Council for looking at increasing the public safety tax in Marion County? I know that we need a lot of things out here in Lawrence for our EMS, our police, fire. And I was just wondering if we could lobby the mayor in Indianapolis to up our public safety tax, so when they do the split, we get more money coming our way. And I have a couple of more. I wanted to inform the Lawrence Common Council and our constituents that there is a proposal number 310-2020 that was introduced to the Indy Council in August of 2020. It was referred to the Administration and Finance Committee regarding property tax relief. What the mayor is proposing in Indianapolis is to give a one-time $150 property tax credit for homes up to $250,000, and greater, they're just going to give $100 for property tax relief for that. And the last one, I am excited and want to push forward the Keystone Project. I'm waiting for this 5-foot building to get built so we can start having other people come into our city instead of going to Fishers and Carmel. That's all.
Any other councilors?
Madam President?
Yes, Councilor Chevrolet.
I want to follow up on Councilor Freeman's comment about the public safety tax. So ordinarily, I'm not a big fan of raising taxes, but when we first looked at this several years ago, because of where it goes and the impact that it has on our community is so vital. Unfortunately, we as a council can't act independently. We need our Indianapolis City Council members to also join us. And so, like Councilor Freeman said, whoever your Indianapolis City Council district representative is, mine is Allie Brown. I've already reached out to her a couple times on the importance of this, because as we've all seen, I was at the budget presentation about a week or so ago that the controller and the chief was there for fire and police. It's vital that we really push this because of the funding needs that public safety needs. And so thank you for bringing this up, Councilor Freeman. And I hope all of us will make a concentrated effort to work in lobbying our peers at the Indianapolis City Council to make sure that, because when this was first talked about 4, 5, 6 years ago, I can't even remember, the plan was always, here's a starting point, but the objective was to increase it little by little in order to stay ahead of inflation, but also the increased costs of running these departments, and it hasn't been done yet. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. So I just would encourage our fellow council members to reach out to their peers on the Indianapolis City Council and see if we can drive this to get some resolution and hopefully get them to get this on the agenda to have it reviewed and listened to.
Councilor Whitfield.
Oh, no. Okay, thank you.
Any other councilors?
Madam President,
Yes, Councilor Wells.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our city inspector, Penny, that he had been working with me on some old tall grass and trash complaints, and I just wanted to let him know. I meant to call him today, and I just didn't get around to it, but his efforts have been met with quite a bit of success in the neighborhoods that he targeted last week. I got a couple of phone calls from people that were happy with the results. And also I'd like to thank Mr. Hoffman, kind of used to the Chief Hoffman, but trying to get used to that, Mr. Hoffman, for the parking issue that you and I discussed on Public Safety Day. Apparently that's been taken care of. And one other thing that came to my attention on the way here is there's going to be a road closed sign, or is a road closed sign, I guess, here in the next week or so on 47th Street by the railroad tracks. And maybe during comments of the administration, we could be clued in on what that entails and how long it might be. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Do you mind elaborating on the parking situation? Which parking situation are you referring to?
It was the one on 47th Street between, actually right there where the road closed is to be closed there at between the railroad tracks and Franklin Road. There was some parking going on right there by a no parking sign.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other counselors?
Madam President,
Yes, Councilor Russell.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. A few weeks ago, I asked in a council meeting about animal control situation that happened with a raccoon in a constituent's neighborhood nearby me. And I just wanted to thank the administration for their prompt response and their thorough response to me. And I just wanted to make sure I acknowledge that and to the council that they were able to respond right away. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other counselors? Seeing none, next on the agenda is signing of vouchers, approval of claims, and authorization of payment. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion, Councilor Freeman.
Second.
Second, Councilor Wells. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Councilor Wells.
Yes.
Councilor Russo-Moroff.
Yes.
Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Councilor Freeman.
Yes.
Councilor Chavis. Yes. Councilor Russell, you'll need to go on video.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Denning.
Yes.
Councilor Giles. I'm not sure he's with us. Not either. Councilor Chevlot.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Next, we have unfinished business. Proposal number 16, 2022.
Proposal number 16, 2022, introduced by Councilor Freeman, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence, Indiana, establishing a vehicle inspection fee pursuant to Indiana Code 9-17-2-12 and a rebuilt salvage motor vehicle inspection fee pursuant to Indiana Code 9-22-3-15.
Okay, I know that was heard in code, and I think it was recommended to full council. Is that correct? Okay. Next, we have proposal number 17, 2022.
What did I do, 17? Proposal number 17, 2022, introduced by Councilor Denny, a proposal for an ordinance amending Title I, Article 2, Chapter 2, Section 4 of the Municipal Code of the City of Lawrence, redistricting Common Council district boundaries pursuant to Indiana Code 36-4-6-3 and providing a time when the same shall take effect.
Okay, that's still in committee as a whole. That will be discussed at our next full council meeting. And Clerk, if there is time available prior to that meeting, we would like to have a town hall for our constituents to come and participate in the redistricting discussion.
September 6th? Okay, is finance meeting prior to?
Yeah, we'll probably work with Councilor Denning on that, but I definitely want that town hall to precede our council meeting. Maybe if we could schedule that for 5:30. Next, we have resolution number 12, 2022.
Resolution number 12, 2022, introduced by Councilor Freeman, a resolution to amend the City of Lawrence's ARP fund plan.
Okay, that's still in finance,
That's
correct?
still in finance, correct, and we've not made a recommendation yet.
Okay. Next, we have consideration of council appointment to the Grants Committee. And we are going to have to do a roll call vote on that, given that we have a couple councilors joining remotely. So right now, I'm going to open the floor to nominations for the Grants Committee. That is one appointment for someone that lives, a citizen or constituent that lives in the city of Lawrence. So I'm opening the floor to nominations. I'd like to personally nominate Judy Byron. Any other nominations?
Madam President, can you remind me how many we're nominating? Because I did not, just one?
One citizen, and it will be one citizen, one member from the administration. That's Tyler's appointment, so it'll either be him or whoever he designates, and then it'll be 3 council members,
Got it.
which I will send out the council
Okay.
assignments this evening.
So a total of 5?
Yes.
Yep.
So any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, nominations are closed. We will need to do a roll call vote. Counselor Wells.
Yes. Or yes,
Counselor Russo-Moroff.
Judy Byron.
Counselor Russo-Moroff.
Yes.
Counselor Whitfield.
Yes.
Counselor Freeman.
Yes, for Judy Byron.
Counselor Chavis. Yes. Counselor Denny.
Yes, for Councilor Chapin.
Counselor Russell.
Yes.
Counselor Chevlot.
Yes.
Okay. Looks like we have a 8-0. So Thank you, Ms. Byron, for your willingness to serve on this committee. We appreciate it, and we're looking forward to working with you on this newly created committee. Okay, next on the agenda, we have proposal number 18, 2022.
Proposal number 18, 2022, introduced by Councilor Wells, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence, Indiana, adopting a new schedule of sewer utility rates and charges.
Madam President, this still remains in finance, and I ask for Baker Tilly to stay tonight in case they wanted to give a further presentation and answer questions for this before it went on
Okay.
to the full council.
Okay, let's do this. We're going to get through the next two items, and then we're going to have you come forward and answer any questions or present whatever information you want to for the rest of the counselors, okay? All right, next on the agenda, proposal number 19, 2022.
Proposal number 19, 2022, introduced by Councilor Wells, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence, Indiana concerning acquisition, construction, or improvement of sewage works, authorizing issuance of sewer works revenue bonds for such purpose, providing for the collection, segregation, and distribution of revenues of sewage works, and safeguarding of interests of owners of sewage works revenue bonds, other matters connected therewith, and repealing ordinances inconsistent herewith.
Okay,
Madam
that's in
President, that's
finance.
still in finance as well.
Okay. Proposal number 20, 2022.
Proposal number 20, 2022, introduced by Councilor Chevlot, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council amending Section 3-3-4-7 and Section 3-3-4-8 of the Lawrence Municipal Code with respect to litter violation notices.
Okay, and I was listening to that on my way here, and I believe I heard that was recommended out. Is that correct, Councilor Freeman?
Correct.
And you're going to have an amended version to that? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. New business, proposal number 21, 2022.
Proposal number 21, 2022, introduced by Councilor Denny, a proposal for an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lawrence, Indiana, amending Title III, Article 2, Chapter 4 of the Lawrence Municipal Code with respect to event parking.
Okay, that will be assigned to code. Okay, now we're going to invite Tyler and anyone from Baker Tilly who might be presenting or taking questions tonight.
We got Dean Rogers here with Baker Tilly, so he did go through the presentation.
Okay.
And so really, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, I'd recommend, we broke it down into the rate increase and then divided it out into the bond side. So Baker Tilly is talking about the rate increase portion.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Evening, Council. Dean Rogers, partner with Baker Tilly. I'm going to take your direction at, I have the rate study. I understand, I think you all have it. I'm happy to go into as much detail as necessary, or I'm happy to just give you a high-level overview of the recommendation.
Give us a high-level overview of the recommendations, and then if we have questions, we can pick it up from there. That would be great.
Okay, I'll do that. So, I think you've heard a little bit of background on this, but some of the reasons why we're looking at a rate adjustment, it's been, we've seen declining cash balances, roughly $1 million over the 3.5 year period we looked at. Just a general understanding that current rates are sustainable to achieve some of your sewer separation projects that need to take place. And so we've looked at phasing in a rate adjustment over a 4-year period. And some of that's in an effort to ease the burden on ratepayers and not have rate shock. Part of that plan, so key components of that we're building into the rate adjustment is you have rate increases coming from citizens for the wastewater that they treat from the city of Lawrence. Those increases are built into the operating expenses as part of this rate analysis. We're looking at the city's looking at working with London Witty Group to issue a $20 million bond issue to pay for a good chunk of the projects that are necessary for the sewer separation projects. That is factored into this rate analysis. Anytime you issue debt like that, you have to fund a debt service reserve. That is factored in as well. And then what I refer to, I think Scott kind of refers to it as working capital, or I refer to it as replacements and improvements, but making sure there's a pot of funds available for capital improvements in the system. Ideally, that would I mean, Scott's target is $2 million a year as an amount considered necessary for that. We are proposing to kind of phase in and build up to that amount, starting at $800,000 with phase one and growing that by $400,000 per year up until you're at $2 million with the fourth phase. Long story short, with that background, what we're looking at is a phase one rate adjustment. So right now you have a minimum bill for anybody that uses up to 4,300 gallons for sewer. And an average home, they're probably in that 4,000 to 5,000 gallon range. So that fits right in there. Currently, a customer at that minimum bill is paying $27.05 per month. We're proposing a phase one adjustment that would increase that by $8.60 to $35.65. A phase two adjustment which phase two is kind of when that additional debt service would start getting implemented, and the additional $400,000 for replacements and improvements would raise that an additional $9.33 to $44.98. And then it kind of smooths out and lessens so that we keep those increases below $4 a month. $3.83 up to $48.81 for your average customer monthly in phase three, and then an additional $3.91 with phase four that would take that average bill up to $52.72. There's an additional component worth discussing. I think one of my colleagues was here a few years ago with the water rate adjustment, and at that time, the water utility decided to implement some low volume user tiers to hopefully help ease the burden on I think of the elderly who aren't using a lot of water. So that is being proposed on the sewer side as well. And what that means is, so low tier one would be for those customers using between 0 and up to 1,200 gallons. We are proposing that their rate would not change, that would stay at what is now the current minimum charge of $27.05.
So, I'm sorry, real quick, can you tell me how many households falls into that 0 to 1,200 range?
I know we've analyzed that data, but I don't have that
That's
number
okay.
on the
That's
tip of
okay.
my tongue.
That's okay.
So we're proposing that they would stay at $27.05 throughout the four phases. The second low volume tier is above 1,200 gallons, but up to 2,000 gallons. We are proposing that they would go from $27.05 up to $30.98. So that's an increase of what, $3.94, and that they would remain at that level throughout these four phases. And then everybody else would see the level of increases that I previously talked about. But so that's kind of a quick high-level overview. Happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
No, but when you come back, or I don't know if it's Scott, whoever's going to be at the finance committee meeting, you could have that information.
Okay.
Or if you want to email it, in terms of, how many people represent the 0 to 1,200, and then how many represent that next category of 2,200.
Yeah, we've certainly from a snapshot in time of when we
right.
got that billing data, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
I would add, and there was one more category in the chart, the non-metered customers. I didn't realize Lawrence still had people on well water. And that's what was there. And at that next meeting, I would also ask why the rate increase was so much more for somebody with well water versus connected to our city water.
It's the same on a percentage basis. They're just starting at a higher point.
Okay.
I think the assumption there is they're kind of allowed up to a higher level of usage, whereas the rates that I'm talking about are for your minimum customer that only allows up to 4,300 gallons.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilor Lewis.
I've got a few questions. When Scott and I talked about this, and, I totally understand that our infrastructure is getting old and needs to be taken care of. One of the things that Scott and I talked about was, and this may be more of a Scott question, but is that, we pay a certain amount of money to Indianapolis to treat our sewage. And right now, because of the deterioration of our sewer system, there's a lot of stormwater that runs into our sewer system that we're paying Indianapolis to treat. So once these repairs are made, and I know it's going to be over a period of time, is there any way of possibly calculating what that savings would be? And is it possible that that savings could be passed off to, because my concern is the people that, I understand you're trying to help, and I admire that, the people with the low usage of water, but is it possible that this could be added to the next level? And could we look at people that are on government assistance and that has a lot of kids, but yet they're going to use a lot of water, and this could be a really hardship on some of these people, and even the elderly. Of course, here again, I know the water gallon thing should pretty much cover it, but I'm just not sure that it will. And so I guess my question is, can we not look at income, age, like I said, government assistance? I mean, could they bring some kind of a voucher in to show that they're getting government assistance to, to end up with this savings? And then my next question is, I'll quit after this one. When was the last raise? Because it seems to me the last raise was for infrastructure repair, and it was a fairly significant one, and I would like to think that we did utilize that for infrastructure repair, that we're not, and we're in the shape that we're in right now. I'm just a little puzzled about that.
Sure. A lot to unpackage there, so I'll start and let Scott jump in later if he likes. I'll take maybe the easiest one first. And so the last full rate adjustment was back in 2009.
2009?
Yeah, so, we recommend to folks, you should be doing a rate study at a minimum every 3 to 5 years. It's preferred, I think, by customers. It's preferred by those running utilities that you have smaller, more frequent rate increases, as opposed to letting them go for a long
Right.
time, because then you do get into a situation where you end up with larger adjustments that are just a harder pill to swallow. Now, I will add to that, I think there was a small adjustment in 2016 that tracked. There's a mechanism called a tracker, and I won't bore you with the details, but you can kind of pass along to your customers some of the increase that you see from your treatment provider, Indianapolis Citizens in this case, and there was a small amount passed along that was added to your rates in 2016, but that was just kind of a drop in the bucket.
Where it stands right now is the sewer rate tracking factor, the calculation for that was based on the annual CPI increase. Right now, it's 40 cents per 1,000 gallons. Really doesn't.
Addressing your question about, you're right. So, a big chunk of your operating disbursements are paying for treatment, the bill that you get from Citizens, and there's no doubt that there's inflow and infiltration. You're paying to treat clear water, and a large part of why this rate adjustment is necessary is to address those issues and hopefully reduce the flows that you're sending, and hopefully you do see savings. Kind of the approach that I have in mind, and I think is consistent with Scott's thoughts, is you know, as much as we don't want to hear it, I think this is a first step in the right direction, and this is kind of proposing adjustments out through 2025. I think at that time, you're going to have to look at doing a rate study again, and I think the reason I say that is because this is round one of increases from citizens. We know there's going to be a round two of phased-in increases from citizens. And I think 2025 is going to be an appropriate time to kind of pause and reevaluate where you're at. And hopefully, you know, you've gotten a good start or maybe finished some of these sewer separation projects. And, you know, we can really look at where that's at, start to, you know, factor in that second phase of increases from citizens and just evaluate that all at one time around 2025. You know, hopefully we do see some savings from decreased flows. And, you know, if we see those in the interim, that's some additional funds that are potentially available for replacements and improvements and some of that capital improvements that have probably been deferred a little bit over time. There was a third piece to your question that
Well, I was asking you if there was a possibility that we could look at the hardship cases, you know, government subsidies people, you know, elderly, you know, that's on fixed income, Social Security, that kind of thing. If, you know, instead of just looking at the water usage, because to me that's kind of a vague, you know, I just think we're going to be overlooking a lot of people that, you know, that could need help, but they're using a little more water than what we're setting aside here.
Mm-hmm. A couple of comments on that. You know, it's a bit of a slippery slope, and I'm not an attorney, but one of the reasons I say that is when you start looking at Indiana code that says that rates have to be fair, just, and non-discriminatory. So if you have one group subsidizing another, you kind of start to have some issues there. And, you know, let's be honest, you know, even with what we're proposing here, with developing some low tiers, somebody's going to make up for that, right? You need to generate a certain amount of revenues to cover your revenue requirements. And if you're lowering the burden for one group, you're raising it for another. And I think you start to run into some of those discriminatory issues with that. So, you know, I think you've got to be real careful when you start going down that path. Another thing that I'll mention, and Scott mentioned this during the Finance Committee, is there are some assistance programs out there. There's been LIHEAP for a long time, which is energy assistance. There's now LIWAP, which is a program for water and wastewater customers where those customers, if they're falling behind or can't afford to pay their bills, they can apply for assistance. So that's one form of help that is relatively new and that the city's making available.
The information's on our website too. And access that program.
Okay, any other counselors?
Is the, one quick question, and we didn't ask this in finance, is the primary driver for this citizens or the bonds, the EPA order? What is sort of the primary driver for the rated increase in study?
You know, they're 1A and 1B. Those are both key issues. You know, when we looked at historical treatment cost and budgeted treatment cost, I mean, just for that first year, we're looking at an increase of $1 million plus of treatment cost. And, you know, as I look at citizens' rates and where they're going, bear with me a moment.
And there's a 1C. We haven't done one since 2009.
Right. Just looking at your treatment cost alone, from what the rate was on January 1, 2020 to where it will be January 1 of 25, 112% increase. Oh. So that's a big driver, considering that's your number one most expensive operating cost. But there's no doubt that this sewer separation issue is a huge component. You know, these aren't, hey, you guys need to do this. This is, you shall do this, or else you're going to find yourselves in trouble.
I do want to clear up one thing.
Scott, if you don't mind stepping up to the mic, though, so everyone can hear it.
Dean's got his CSO hat on, but I have to remind him that Lawrence is a SSO community. We don't have combined sewers here. So we don't have a combined sewer overflow problem. What we have is sanitary sewer overflow, which is still a violation of the Clean Water Act.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Any other counselors?
I have just a,
Oh, Counselor Shabbat.
sure. So citizens, they're independent as far as, let me see how I want to phrase this question. If they look at this and they're seeing, oh gee, we're treating a lot more out of Lawrence, they just go to the IURC to get a rate adjustment. They don't have to go to any governing elected body, correct? And that's why we're seeing a 100% increase in costs?
Citizens is under IURC, so they have to make their case to the IURC, and the IURC agrees.
And then we're just a benefactor of having to pay whatever, unless we do something like this to help offset these 100, and what did you say,
12.
12%? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the role that you can play in that is as an intervener. I think eventually in a prior case, you did intervene, as well as maybe some of the other satellite communities that Citizens treats. So, that's something you'll want to monitor in the future as they file a rate case, evaluate it, and consider if it makes sense to intervene.
Okay, thank you.
Kroger, Gardas, and Regis on board that do that for us.
Right, okay, thank you.
Counselor Zamorov.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have one point for clarification to make sure I understand this point correctly, and then secondly, a question. So I'll start off with point one for clarification, which is just to make sure I understand you correctly. It seems fairly obvious to me that we have to make these repairs or we're going to have some trouble with the EPA, and we could face lawsuits or whatever else, whatever kind of injunctions they might have for us. There's that. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that the clear water, we have such an enormous volume of clear water that's going to Indy, and they are treating it. And these repairs have a likelihood or potential of reducing some of that volume. And therefore, I am assuming that would also reduce some of our cost associated with that decreased volume that's being treated. Is that correct? Am I understanding that?
Yeah, that's a fair statement. I think we all hope that it would come to fruition, that some of those treatment costs would go down as you complete some of these projects.
Thank you. My second question.
Excuse me, Council, I just want to, in your packets, I put a printout of a spreadsheet I use to track performance. And to address that question there, and Rick, about the amount of clear water. So if you look at, so I printed out our 2021 water and sanitary sewer performance sheet, and that's included in your packets. And so if you look at our total metered water that we sell to customers, and keep in mind that your sewer bill is based on your metered water consumption. So we, call it 1.23 billion gallons is what we sold. That's what went out to our customers through the meters. What we sent to Indianapolis, Citizens for treatment is 2.1 billion.
Wow.
Okay, so we're talking a significant amount of money here. Right now, if you just
Can you repeat that again? That's an important point.
1,228,000,000 gallons is what we sell in water. What we're sending to sewage treatment is 2.1 billion, 2 billion.
Double.
Pretty close, yeah. I mean, we're talking, and it varies obviously with the amount of rainfall we get. Fortunately, the last couple of months have been very nice to us, but
I'm assuming the
we're
wells.
talking $600,000 to $800,000 a year that we're paying to treat clear water because we're not investing in our infrastructure.
Right.
And I know it hurts. I'm going to be paying the bill too. But you know what? I'll gladly pay it to keep the sewage in the pipe instead of out of the pipe. And I think, that's, again, we are working diligently with our customers. We've extended payment extension programs. There's the LIHEAP, LIWAP. I'm working with Tyler right now on another program that I think will help customers who get into trouble due to leaks and run up arrearages. We have a plan that we're kind of tweaking here to look at a way to, with good faith payments made by the customer are offset by a corresponding reduction in the arrearage and help bring that down faster.
Scott?
Obviously, we have to write off some loss, but it will help.
You've been up here a lot over the last, I remember, about this issue, but I've never heard that stat. What is, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, you go right ahead. Yeah, I know you're excited.
Well, my math brain just overloaded here. So what is the normal ratio of a million gallons? What would be the normal ratio of sending to Citizens to treat if everything was?
A good rule of thumb is that, so if you get a gallon of water or 100 gallons of water, whatever it is, the rule of thumb is like 80 to 85% of that. If you factor out that some of the water you goes through your meter, you're spraying on the lawn, on your plants,
Right.
maybe filling a pool or whatever. So not all of that water is going down the sanitary sewer, right? So a rule of thumb is 80 to 85%. So we are way in the wrong direction on
Got it. Okay. That's what I was looking for is that, so we should be sending about 850,000 gallons down to Citizens, but we're sending 2 million.
We should be sending something less than 1.2 billion.
A billion, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, it's a huge problem, and certainly Lawrence is not the only community that has this problem. It's everywhere, and it's endemic to this country that we put infrastructure back in the ground. Back in at the end of World War II and the expansion, everybody used to have built all this infrastructure. You just put it in the ground, you think it's going to last forever, and it doesn't. It really doesn't.
So one last thing, sorry. 5-6 years ago, we did this project where we were lifting a lot of these, it was in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So had we not done that, we would even be in worse shape? Because
Well,
what we did is we raised those.
Take a very nuanced response. So
Leave it to Scott to give a nuanced response.
this gets back to part of the problem that we've had in the past. So when we raised the rates in 2009,
Right.
that was to address the projects that were in the agreed order with the EPA. We paid, I don't know how many millions of dollars for Structure Point to come in here and do we had to study our entire sanitary sewer system. They came in, did all that work, and we end up with a list of projects that we were supposed to do. It's actually in the order.
Yep.
That we will do these projects to the tune of $2 million a year. So they passed a rate increase in 2009, taking into account, okay, we got to start doing these projects, but that didn't take into account that you have all these other costs too. You have routine operating and maintenance costs, and there are other capital costs, other projects, other things, other equipment, vehicles. There are emergency repairs or failures, pump failures in lift stations.
get it, but I guess my
$50,000 on a pump.
My point, though, we did these projects where we were raising these manholes.
I'm getting there. I
Okay.
promise.
I'm trying to be pithy here and.
So what we did is, the projects, like, that was sold as an I&I reduction project.
Exactly.
Right? Well, there was no measurement before or after to actually put a number on, okay, so I forget exactly how much we spent on raising those manholes, but there was no quantification of the actual benefit. And so that was just, a misguided project. And quite frankly, that money could have probably been better spent doing sewer repairs in the old part of Lawrence like we're doing with the SWIFT ARPA fund right now.
Yep.
So that's part of the problem of what's been going on. And now, not to say that didn't need to happen. There certainly were a couple manholes back through there that had inflow and infiltration issues through the lid. But by and large, to compound that, there was no survey work done to say exactly how high those manholes had to be. So typically, you want your manhole lid needs to be, 2 feet above the 100-year flood elevation. All right? So, the decision was made at that time not to do any of that because they didn't want to spend the money to do that. So arbitrarily, well, just raise that one 6 feet, do 4 feet over here. And so we have manholes out of the ground that we have to take ladders out to get up to. So, but again, that was money that probably could have been better spent elsewhere.
Thank you.
So and there were other projects like that, but the point is there are things that need to be done that are not necessarily I&I related, and the 2009 increase didn't take all that into account. And so consequently, all these other things come up that we need to do, we need to fix, we're doing less I&I removal. We're still having chronic SSOs, and eventually EPA comes back and says, you know what, you guys aren't doing so hot. And so we're going to up the ante a little bit here, and you're going from an agreed order to an administrative order on consent, which is, one step below, we're bringing the hammer down, and we're going to see you in court.
So does the increase actually allow us to do what we need to do
Yes.
for the next?
Yes, and
3 to
we come back in
4 years.
2025. I agree with Dean. I think that is a good target area to reevaluate the rates, see what our performance is. I guarantee you, if you look at we actually did in 2020 and 2021, the Elmhurst Basin Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project. Actually, I'm going to be doing a presentation tomorrow on that at a conference up in Fort Wayne. And so we had a significant drop in I&I measured because we did pre and post metering of that basin to see what the effect of our project was. And it was a huge success. And that's the kind of stuff we need to be doing. But we still also need to make sure that we're doing all the other things too, because the statute that Dean mentioned that talks about the non-discriminatory rates and fair and equitable and all that, the other part of that statute also says that it's incumbent on the utility to make sure that they have adequate rates to operate their sewer and water systems properly. And that includes, investment in replacements and improvements, and not to mention all the other routine expenses.
Madam President? Okay.
Okay, so Councilor.
Hi, Madam Chair. I have a question, if
Okay.
it's okay.
Yep, Counselor, one moment. I'm going to go to, make sure that Counselor Rusamar, both of your questions were answered.
No, I didn't get a chance to state my second question, but I think it's going to be a real easy one. I think I heard in the Finance Committee meeting that one of the presentations indicated that additional or new developments that come in also may have a positive impact on this rate increase, in that we may have many more users, so that may also help our potential for our user fees maybe to stay the same or not increase, or at least have some kind of positive impact on these overall rates. Did I understand that correctly, or am I off base?
I think
Thank
the thing
you.
to keep in mind is you're adding customers, and yes, you're selling water to them and you're collecting sewer fees, but they're sending sewage down the pipe that you need to pay to treat. So the rates are designed to cover our expenses. And we're a not-for-profit company here. As much as people probably think otherwise, we don't make profit here. We don't pay shareholders or anything like that. All the money that we make is invested in the utility. So those savings, Rick, when we start dropping our I&I, that money is going to be rolled right back into the utility. That's how you gain control of rates into the future. That's how you keep making sure that you have that you're covering your costs, and you're making sure that you're generating enough revenue to replace old and worn out infrastructure and make improvements, that kind of stuff. But as far as, if I understood you correctly, you were thinking, okay, with all this money we saved, do we just give it back to the customer? I don't think that's a reasonable approach to take. I think what we need to do is get our house in order, both financially and physically, and then that's what's going to ensure in the future that your rate increases are minimal.
Well, I did have,
Let me go to council attorney first,
sure,
Rick, and then back to you.
sure.
Thanks, Rick, and sorry, Maria, this late in the evening, my brain fades quickly on whose question got answered, so apologies for interrupting. I have one question, but wanted to make a clarifying statement. Citizens Water is a public charitable trust. They are not a for-profit utility. They do not have shareholders. They are regulated by the IURC. Many of you know that in my representation of communities across the state, in the last 25 years, have done a lot of water and sewer work, including as general counsel for 7 years at the IURC. I agree with everything Baker Tilly has said. I agree with everything Scott has said. This is a problem that simply must be fixed. That said, you have a lot of discretion as a city, as a utility, as the council to set rates. Yes, there is a non-discriminatory provision in the law that's always been there, and it's a pretty high bar to show rates are discriminatory, which leads to my question. I believe, Scott, you sent us such comprehensive materials, and I really want to thank you for that. But I think I saw in there that Baker Tilly may have provided 3 different rate design options to the Utility Service Board, and what was presented by the council was a recommendation for 1. I'm interested to hear more about what those options were, because I say the same thing to the counselors that raised concerns about this. Yes, we need to get it done, but there are many ways to slice this apple. And I'm interested in knowing on behalf of the council what other options you considered and why this was the one that you put before the council as opposed to others. Because honestly, we have a relatively simple rate structure. It could look a lot, and we are affordability and rate shock for customers is going to be an issue here, understanding that it's a need to be done situation. So I'm interested whether that's considered, and excited, quite frankly, to hear you say that you're looking at other options. I will mention other utilities often do water conservation programs where they will hand out water conservation kits, shower heads, educational materials, things that will help particularly low-income customers control their water usage, which lowers both their water and sewer bill. From what I've heard from the council tonight and in other discussions, I think that would be something they'd be very interested in seeing what your thoughts are down the road. But I'll let you answer my question about what other rate structures you looked at.
Yeah, I'll let Dean touch on that.
Okay, and we're gonna give this about 7 more minutes. So you go right ahead, you have the floor.
Yeah, so just to touch on the other alternatives that were considered, and it really wasn't a different rate structure, but really the other alternatives, the only difference was what was going to be provided in that allowance for replacements and improvements, or those dollars available for capital expenditures. There was an alternative that instead of getting that up to just the $2 million mark, actually got that up to $3 million. So it started at $2 million and gradually phased into $3 million over time. The other option, so there were 3 options. That was one. There's the one that we've talked about, which is starting at 800, working your way up to 2 million. The other one was just going to 2 million on day one and keeping it at 2 million. So really the option that's been presented and brought forth is the one that is kind of the least amount of rate shock to that customer.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Sure.
Makes sense.
And all that, I'm actually a Lawrence Utilities customer, so.
So you're going to join in the fun. Counselor Wells, you have one more question, and then.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Yeah, when I mentioned, the savings on the stormwater, I think where I was trying to go with that is that, and I don't know how long it's going to take to get these repairs initiated. This is, like a 3-4 year process of raising the rates. And I guess where I was trying to look at is maybe in the third or fourth year, if our savings from we're sending double, the amount, according to what you said, amount of water to be treated. That's pretty significant. And if we can cut that even in half, that maybe on the third or fourth year, maybe the rate increase wouldn't have to be so substantial. I guess that's where I was, and I'm just throwing this out here to see if anything would stick to try to make this not as terrible on our ratepayers.
And I understand that, but I think, again, the rates have to be able to support the bond debt, and not only that, but our routine operating and maintenance costs, which they go up every year. But again, that ties in nicely, though, your time frame. That's why we're saying 2025. That's when we sit back, take pause, as Dean says, and we'll reevaluate. And going forward, if there's another rate increase needed, obviously it's not going to be as large as it could be, but we will. We get these projects done. We are going to see those sewage treatment costs come down.
Well, you had mentioned that, and I know we do have people that are on well water. The people on well water couldn't possibly make this thing double, or make this sewer rate double what's going to, do you have any idea what possibly the amount might be for the people that are?
Well, the problem with people who are on wells is we don't know what they use.
Right.
They have a well, if they want
that's
to turn their
true.
faucet on and leave it run all day and all night, that's nothing we can do about that. And so that's why that rate is set the way it is. It's a little bit higher than the 4,300 gallon minimum, but you have to have some kind of allowance built in there because, they're not all just using 4,300 gallons or less.
Do you have any idea off the top of your head how many people that are on a well that is using the sewer system?
It's somewhere just north of 220, I think, about 200.
Well, it's not a lot.
It's not a whole lot, no.
Okay.
So, Counselor Wells, I'm going to thank you. Thank you. So thank you so much, both of you, for presenting that information and answering our questions. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And I will say one thing, and Tyler has one thing real quick, but CSX closed the railroad. That's their project, and it'll last from Monday to Friday.
Thank you.
Contract they're working on. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So this is more of a timeline thing. I'd looked back over the timeline. I think originally the way that Kroger, Gardis, and Regis, and I think Baker Tilly kind of laid things out, that September 6th was kind of a temporary schedule for the public hearing. So just kind of a reiteration, I think we have to have the public hearing before you could take action. More of just a question. Do you want us to schedule a public hearing for the 6th, knowing you'd have to open and close it right before the actual council meeting starts, depending upon action in the finance committee? How would you like us to approach that?
Perhaps we should discuss it a little bit more because we have a lot on that agenda for the 6th.
We might have to do the finance committee ahead of
Town hall, maybe?
ahead of 9/6 or 9/5, whatever
Yeah, on a
it
different
is.
day the week
Plus,
prior.
just more things coming. The budget ordinances will be all introduced on the 6th
Yep.
as well. And
Yep.
normally we play the video. So
Yep.
there's just, yeah.
There's a lot on, there's a lot on that agenda. Okay,
We can touch base afterwards, just.
yeah, let's touch base afterwards, but we definitely will probably be looking at not doing something prior to the 5:30 town hall.
Right.
It's probably going to take longer, so thank you. We're adjourned.